I pretended to be deaf for 3 years just to see what people really thought of me, and it destroyed my entire family. It started when my twin brother died in a car crash. I was driving. The grief counselor said trauma can cause temporary hearing loss. My parents were so focused on their own pain, they never questioned when mine didn't come back, but I could hear everything. The first thing I heard was my mom on the phone with my aunt the night we got home from the hospital. She was crying, saying, if Jake had been driving, David would still be alive. Jake was always the careful one. I heard my dad tell his brother he wished it was me instead, not in a moment of anger, just matter-of-factly, like he was discussing the weather. Wrong kid died, Tom. Jake had his whole future planned out. At school, I sat in the counselor's office while she talked to my teachers about accommodations. Mrs. Peterson said she wasn't surprised this happened to me specifically. David was always reckless. Jake would have looked both ways. At the funeral, my best friend Marcus told people I was probably faking the hearing loss for attention. Classic David, making Jake's death about himself. Watch, he'll be cured right when he gets tired of the sympathy. My girlfriend Sarah broke up with me through a note, but I heard her tell her friends she couldn't date someone so broken. She said I was creepy now because I just stared instead of talking. Dinner conversations. My parents would sit right across from me and talk about Jake like I wasn't there. Mom would say things like, Jake would have graduated valedictorian, and Jake wanted to be a doctor. Dad would nod and add, Jake actually cared about his future. They'd discuss my college applications, which they'd basically given up on, saying I'd probably need to go somewhere less competitive because of my situation. They meant state school, instead of the Ivy League Jake had been accepted to. Church was brutal. Pastor Williams would pray for my healing, while congregation members whispered about how this was God's way of teaching our family something. Mrs. Chen told my mom maybe I needed this humbling because I'd always lived in Jake's shadow anyway. My relatives were worse. Thanksgiving, Christmas, every gathering became a shrine to Jake while they treated me like damaged goods. Uncle Mike would ruffle my hair and mouth slowly. How are you doing, buddy? Like I was 5. Aunt Linda would tear up looking at me and tell my mom, it's just so sad what happened to him. I watched my parents' marriage crumble too. Dad started drinking more, staying late at work. Mom threw herself into organizing memorial events for Jake. They'd fight about money, about me, about everything, but they'd do it thinking I couldn't hear. Dad told Mom he couldn't look at me without seeing Jake's empty chair. Mom said she felt guilty for being disappointed every time she came home and saw me instead of Jake. I started speaking sign language, got really good at it, made friends in the deaf community who actually valued me. Sarah from my ASL class became my closest friend. She was born deaf and taught me that communication wasn't about hearing words, it was about being seen. But my family never learned sign language, not a single word. They just wrote notes or pointed or gave up trying to communicate entirely. For 3 years, I lived in this silent hell they created for me, watching them mourn the son they actually wanted while treating me like a burden they were stuck with. I became invisible in my own house. They'd planned family activities around my limitations, quiet restaurants, no movies, nothing that required me to interact with the hearing world. But really, they just wanted to avoid the embarrassment of having a disabled son. Then last month, my dad had a heart attack. In the hospital, barely conscious, he kept saying, I'm sorry, Jake, over and over. That's when I broke. I grabbed his hand and said out loud, Dad, it's David. I'm David, and I can hear you. He looked at me like he'd seen a ghost. My mom walked in right as I was speaking. The shock nearly killed her. Now they know I heard everything. Every cruel word, every comparison, every wish that I had died instead. They can't take any of it back, and honestly, I don't want them to.